In my hand is a bottle of water. Good, clean water. But right now, locked inside this bottle, it really can't do anything. It gives life to no one. It's real, but it's not reaching any person. It could refresh, could even save somebody who's dying of thirst. But sealed up, it's useless. Can't do anything. The prophet Ezekiel, in the first reading, saw something very different. Scripture says, water was flowing from below the threshold of the temple. And everywhere the water flows, every living creature was healed. Every living creature was healed. The word every is very important. Every creature, not just the Jewish people, but every living creature was healed. So the temple wasn't a storage tank for holiness. It was really a source of living water to be rushing forward and bring healing to everything that it touched. The defining mark of God's presence is really moving forward. And the defining mark of God's presence is really moving forward. In the gospel, Jesus enters the temple, and the water has stopped flowing. Prayer basically has been turned into profit. The place where the buyers and sellers were, the Pharisees should never have allowed that to happen. Never. Because Scripture made it very clear in Isaiah, that's the place where the Gentiles were meant to pray to encounter the God of Israel. So that was what, to use modern language, that was the area of evangelization. That was the area where God wanted all of his children to gather who couldn't go beyond those boundaries to encounter him and want to be in communion with him. So prayer had turned into profit, and worship had become routine that was basically on life support. The place meant to draw God's people had become a marketplace. So Jesus overturned the tables. Not because he rejected the temple, but rather he wanted the water to start flowing again. He wanted God's grace to be flowing again to encounter everything and everyone to bring God's healing, just as Ezekiel saw it in his vision. Today, we celebrate the dedication of the Basilica of St. John Lateran. So why a building? Well, because the consecrated church is not a container for religious people. Consecrated church is not a container for religious people. It's really a launching point for God. It's a launching point for God, for his life to flow into the world. Every Catholic church, including Corpus Christi, really should be like Ezekiel's temple, like Ezekiel's river, rather than this sealed bottle. Not doing anything, not going to benefit anybody, because it's sealed, it's containing its own ingredients. If God's grace stayed inside this building, basically we would be no different than this unopened bottle. If God's grace stayed here, we'd be no different than this unopened bottle. A museum of holiness, perhaps. It would look nice, maybe the stained glass window. Here we are saying our prayers, we're trying to be good. But it just stopped once we left the building. That's it. Just like good, clear water, but it's dead. It's not benefiting anybody because it can't go anywhere. But if grace flows outward into homes, schools, workplaces, streets, then the parish is alive. Then we are fulfilling the purpose for which this temple, this building, this church exists. Church building is not holy because people come in, but rather because they are different, supposed to be different, when we go out. That's when a church actually begins to fulfill its purpose. Not coming in, but actually coming in, yes, is part of it, but when we go out. So the question this feast places before all of us is my faith bottled up and going nowhere? Or is it flowing out? What am I doing with, because we're all receiving here. We're all being poured into by God. Hopefully I'm doing my job. But even if I wasn't, we would all be receiving from God. He's pouring into us through His Word, through the Holy Eucharist that'll be made present on the altar in a few moments. What am I doing with what's being poured into me? Am I intentional, aware of the fact that I should be blessing others with the blessings I've received? So is my faith flowing out, or is it being bottled up? Remains being bottled up. Do people experience more because I belong to Jesus Christ? Now, St. Josemaria said, can people tell, can they tell, my words, but his sentiment, can they tell from the way you behave, this is a person who reads the life of Jesus Christ. This is a person who knows Jesus Christ. Not because we're preachy or super religious, just by the way we conduct ourselves, the way we encounter people. There is a difference. People will notice this. Are my words life-giving? Do I encourage people? It's not that we don't suffer, because we all do, or get stressed out. It's how we go through it, because the Lord is pouring into us. Are we letting Him pour into us? Not just for me, but for other people as well, because it's not just about me. That's the problem today, one of the big problems. It's all about me. No, it's about the others. It's about you. That's the kind of frame of mind that we all need to kind of get into. Do I bring hope to my workplace? If not, maybe Jesus needs to overturn the tables in our hearts. Not to condemn us or to reject us, but rather so that the water can start flowing again. God's grace, His influence, His being poured into our life can get flowing again. We are all called to be a consecrated church. A people through whom God's grace flows out into the world. Every ministry that stops at those doors is basically tantamount to a bottle. Every ministry that stops at those doors is like a bottle. It's not going anywhere. Every ministry that goes beyond those doors into the neighborhood, and I don't just mean into the physical neighborhood, I mean into our families and schools and so on, then we become like a river, fulfilling the purpose for being here, why the Lord has granted us a place like this, a launching pad to allow His grace to flow into the world. So the takeaway for this week for the adults is ask yourself, will God's grace flow through me this week? Will God, or how will God's grace perhaps flow through me this week? Because He wants it to. He's pouring into you now as He's pouring into me. One concrete act outside these church walls. One person blessed, as you and I are being blessed just by being here. One person encouraged, or perhaps invited to come to Mass next week, or Alpha that begins, the new Alpha that will begin sometime in January. For young people, don't be a bottle. Don't be a bottle. Can't go anywhere. It's not doing anything. I could be dying of thirst. I can't open the bottle. I'm going to die of thirst. Don't be a bottle. Be a river. Let one friend see your faith, if it sort of happens naturally. I don't mean about being preachy or in your face. I don't mean like that. But just if it comes up, let them see your faith. one act, one kind word, one act of courage, one person you can lift up by just being present and being a good friend. On this feast of St. John Lateran, may this altar make us better, true worshipers of Jesus Christ. But may those doors make us missionaries. Because if it stops here, can't do anything with it. Just stays here. And eventually, of course, even this will become stagnant. It'll lose its life-giving power. So may this make us true worshipers, but may those doors make us missionaries. Because the world is thirsty. It's dying of thirst in so many different ways. We could all fill in the blanks. And God really is counting on us to let the river flow.